Laptops, they're usually expensive for weak amounts of power, but with people now either using tablets or smartphones for virtually everything, it's possible to even find the old ones in the trash. Today we have this Acer Travelmate 4200 that I got down near the dump for free. It looked to be in pretty rough condition, was worse than what you can see here now. Specifications wise, it's sporting an Intel Core 2 Duo T2300 clocked in at 1.66 GHz, paired with 1GB of DDR2 RAM and the integrated Intel GMA 950 graphics chip. Yeah, that one. An 80GB hard disk drive is also included, and it originally retailed for £375 or $399 US, but today we did find it just being thrown away. We gave it a bit of a clean up with some light solvent spray, starting with the top bits and gradually progressing around the laptop, as the ports were clogged completely full of dust, but nothing that wasn't too badly removable. The actual screen and keyboard were immaculate considering how long this thing had probably just been left outside. The actual look of the screen had been, well, a little bit dusty, a little bit of solvent spray needed to be put on it and it just needs to be wiped down, but the main issue with it was the actual lock to the screen was pretty stiff and it caused a little bit of trouble the first time I've opened it, but of course after a few uses this did work fine. Our next step was to get the bottom covers off the laptop to make sure all the internals were in there and in good working order, because unlike modern laptops, these older ones make it incredibly easy for you to get inside and change the components. Not to mention that all the parts except the graphics chip can actually be upgraded. With the fan being the particular issue that I wasn't too happy with, we took it along with the heatsink outside for a thorough clean down. We installed some thermal paste to the CPU now that all the solvent had dried off, which was simple enough and, well, I'm pretty sure you guys all know how to do that. Then it was just a matter of installing the heatsink and fan, as the hard disk drive and RAM didn't really need to be touched, as they were in their own compartments and looked as if they were working completely fine. A few of the screws were a little bit annoying and fiddly, but nothing that a bit of patience couldn't handle. As for my thoughts on the internals of the laptop, they're actually quite nice. I've been a big fan of Acer laptops for a while now, as the ones I've had in the past, and their focus on accessibility, is a large selling point for me. I grabbed the closest Acer charger that I had and cleared up the desk, as it was time to test whether or not this thing would actually work. I saw an orange light on the front which wasn't there before, so far things looked to be going well. And now came the moment of truth. Would this thing actually turn on? And yes it did, but unfortunately someone had locked the hard drive, so that was unusable. When googling the issue, I found out that some PCs can actually format these hard disk drives to reset them, so I connected this up to my PC to test what it would actually do. But I wasn't lucky there. My PC just had no I/O access to it, and well, this is where the 20p part comes into it. I purchased from my local Keck shop an Xbox 360 hard disk drive, which was only meant to be 20GB, but it was actually 60GB, so I guess I got lucky. They sell these rather cheap, but internally they have a little secret. With some crude destruction skills and a Torx screwdriver, they have a 2.5-inch hard drive inside, which makes it perfect for our laptop. Low cost paired with decent performance make this my favourite method of getting a hard drive if I ever need to get one on the cheap. As for the other one, well, that piece of shit will serve a new life in the bin. As for our operating system, we have opted for Windows XP, which although old is exactly what this laptop was designed to run. It's lightweight and supports up to DirectX 9, which means a hell of a lot of games will actually work on it. Not to mention it has a good amount of software for it available, so we're going to install that. As for the installation method, we're installing it from a USB stick, as I've always found it to be the quickest way to install Windows. But unfortunately this thing had a lot of missing drivers, and I mean a lot of missing ones. So up next we had to scour around various sites on the internet before we could actually get this thing up and running. Well, most of the drivers were relatively easy to find on the Acer website, as they seem to have a decent laptop legacy support system, but some drivers involved us tracking down model numbers of the old parts actually inside the laptop, and it took a long time. So without further ado, let's get on with some basic tests. Up first was general web browsing, which worked well. We were using the Opera browser, which is the most secure way to browse the internet on Windows XP. I would advise against going on any dodgy looking sites though, but so far this did work well. As for video playback on YouTube, anything up to 480p was feasible, but I'd like to say that in simpler 720p videos they were very possible, but some of the heavier ones will cause you to drop frames, and really it's just that integrated graphics which is letting down the system performance here. But as for some real gaming tests, let's get on with some benchmarks. Up first is the Elder Scrolls Morrowind, which is running in the 1024x768 resolution with medium settings enabled. We saw averages of 31 frames per second for the vast amount of gameplay, with lows down to 20 frames per second when a lot was going on. These included wave effects and distant details filling up the VRAM. However, as stated beforehand, the gameplay did stay above 30 FPS for the majority of the time. Halo Combat Evolved with medium settings in the 480p resolution returns with a playable experience even in multiplayer. With the game looking okay on the smaller laptop screen, averages retained a playable 41 frames per second on average, with lows down to 19 FPS when it got tough. Of course there were a lot of players around and you could like to see higher results in single player. However, when there is a lot going on, the small 64MB of VRAM will be an issue. Next up is Half-Life 2 running with the DirectX 8.1 mode in the 480p resolution, and it's a prime example of what's actually wrong with the iGPU, as the 64MB of VRAM get filled up too quickly when we looked into the distance. The game ran with an average of 20 frames per second when lows down to 8 FPS when there was a lot going on, and that's pretty much all the time with this game. I mean, you are looking into the distance a lot. Finally, as for the best experience we had CS 1.6, which gave us averages of 86 FPS for the majority of the time, with lows down to 58 FPS when there was a lot of details going on. This was of course at 720p resolution, which is HD actually quite nice for this laptop, with high settings enabled, so virtually anything from 2001 or previous should be playable on this laptop. As for recording, well, this was something a bit difficult. Windows XP doesn't support OBS, so we went for DxTory, which is like the old closed source version, I suppose. They're a little bit similar. Of course, you can tell thanks to the watermark that we are using DxTory, and when we used the encoder, we achieved a solid 40 FPS in game, and this was while recording a 480p bit of footage, which turned out pretty average for a laptop of this age. Not pretty, but still not terrible. It looks a bit like an old Clicks Fillet video. Once again, the iGPU hates sharing the RAM with an intensive program like this. They will constantly be writing to it, reducing the bandwidth the iGPU actually has available. So was it worth picking up and fixing? I'm going to say yes, because now I get to give this laptop to someone that really needs it. Sure, it can't handle today's games, but for simpler 2D titles or those very early 2000s games, it worked flawlessly. You can even get away with viewing YouTube on it. Admittedly, you should be a bit cautious when you are online as it is Windows XP, but in the end you should be fine as long as you're vigilant and run an ad blocker. Thank you very much for watching. Good night! So I tried something a little bit different with this video and released a trailer, and if you enjoyed that, please do comment below so I can do it again if you guys enjoyed that kind of pre-release footage. Of course, don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this, and thank you very much to the subscribers to this channel for supporting me so far.